wish I could sing that. I don't know today. They don't walk nowhere in the area where I'm here.
Bless y'all with a little of that old school, that Key Sweat. I know some of y'all young folks don't know nothing about that, but that was the best music right there. So, welcome to Mystic Mondays with your girl, LaWanda. So today, now last week, we were talking about, what was our topic last week? Last week, we were talking about, and you know how my memory be messing with me and stuff. What are we talking about? I can't remember right now. I should be able to remember, but I can't. Anyway, I saw an article that one of my Facebook friends shared, and it's in regards to, and I'm just paraphrasing, the breakdown, or is there a disconnect between black mothers and black daughters? So I thought that was a great question, and so I wanted to tackle that today. But first, I got to tell you how my week was. Today, I'm feeling great. I feel good. Happy belated Thanksgiving to you all. We had a blast over here. We cooked, we mingled, we drank, we did a little bit of everything. So that was awesome. That was probably the best Thanksgiving I've had. So that was good. So now y'all gonna hear my granddaughter in the background talking about she's sleepy. That just means she wants to be held. She'll be coming around here somewhere. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about that topic. Is there a disconnect between black mothers and black daughters? But we're gonna make it general. It's not, for me, it's gonna be specific to black, obviously, for multiple reasons. But if you feel the need, if you can identify, can relate, go ahead and put your feedback on the feed, and as I see it, I'll respond to it. Right now, I want to wait till some people get on here, but I'm so impatient, so I'm going to just continue. So, again, the topic, is there a disconnect between black mothers and black daughters? Now, I've wrote down multiple questions, and the first one I'm going to state, do you think your mother loves you? Why or why not? That is an unequivocal, absolute no. I don't think she loves me. Why? Probably has something to do with her wishing I was dead, or she hopes I die. So that's a clear indication of her love. I can laugh about it now, but when it's stated, it's not a really good feeling. And just a little background so that you'll understand why I say that. Now, I grew up in foster care, and my mom had went to prison. Actually, she was in prison for almost 27 years, so we all had to go to foster care. And we would go visit her and things like that. But she would never talk to me. She would always talk to my brothers And then, so, as the only girl out of the four of us, I was the only girl. I kind of, in my little small mind, at the time being a young age, I started taking offense to that. Like, okay, I'm coming up here. This is my mom. I look a lot like her. Why isn't she talking to me? So I would start talking to the caseworkers, and she would really hate that. So she would go off telling everybody to kiss her ass and blah, 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 blah. So I'm not sure what age that we stopped visiting her, but it was because of that reason. I was just completely floored by that. So again, do I think my mother loves me? That is a no. How was it growing up with your mother? First of all, didn't grow up with my mother. I grew up, well, for the first 5 years I lived with my grandmother, and then after that I was in foster care. So, and I think maybe I seen her after I went to foster care, maybe 3 years. She didn't want us to go to family. She would rather the state have us. So we ended up being with CPS and DHS. And so I did have foster mothers. And some of the homes would have a husband in there, but not all of them. And I still didn't look up to like the foster mom, most of them, as a mother. I think I was more, it was only one, Johnny Brown. That's my mom, so obviously my mom. But I had this ideal of what a mother should be, should look like, should behave like. And it was always either Claire Huxtable from the Cosby or Aunt Viv from Fresh Prince. I don't know, for some reason I was just, since I didn't have that experience of growing up being nurtured and loved on and told how important I was, anything like that, I had to kind of make that type of stuff up in my mind. And it's so crazy because you don't even know how many people are actually have a non-existent relationship with their mothers. I didn't realize until I read that article that I wasn't the only one, but her mother was actually, she lived with her mom, but it wasn't a great relationship. So she still learned life lessons, but unlike her, I did not have my mother at all. I can't remember one time where I was actually with her. And the only reason that I knew that I was with her at one point was because my brother told me. So I can't do nothing but believe it. I can't question it. Anyway, Claire Huxtable, because she was smart, she was beautiful, she had multiple kids, and she took care of all of them. And so I wanted my mom, that's who my mom should have been. Or Aunt Viv, because she was chocolate. She was chocolate, and I don't know, they just seemed so happy. And so, and it's crazy because I always wanted Bill Cosby to be my dad. So, hey, that was my idea of mother, of any semblance of a mother growing up. Let's see. Do you think you were shown tough love by the way your mother treated you? Now, in regards to how my mother treated me, since she wasn't around and I didn't see her and anything like that, I think the only, see my daughter's over here popping bottles. Okay. That question would be difficult because I didn't grow up with her. So if her telling me that she wish I'd die, or telling my brother that she hope we die, is any indication of tough love, then I guess that's a life lesson. So you would have, I always saw these posts on Facebook where it says you only have one mother and you should love and honor and cherish her and things like that. But it's like, not to be Debbie Downer, not everybody has that type of relationship with their mother, you know. And sometimes I would get sad when I look at it because I always wanted that. So I'm looking at other people or other females' relationship with their mother, especially the really volatile ones where the daughter's cussing out the mom or the mom's cussing out the daughter. And I'm just like, man, I would give anything to have my mother there to cuss me out. And that's crazy. You want any semblance of a mother, no matter if it's negative or what, just as long as you can have a mother. And so having to wish that freaking actresses were your mother, it seems kind of crazy. So I always saw those posts on Facebook, and I'm just like, I would want to say something, or they'll say, if you love your mama, type amen. I want to say something, but like somebody said, if you don't have anything nice to say or it doesn't apply, then scroll on by. So I do a lot of scrolling on by. But just rest assured, let people know, not everybody has the type of relationship or typical relationship, what would you even call it, with their mothers. I had a non-existent relationship. Did I get... So as far as tough love, I think the tough love, in my opinion, it wasn't a matter of a mom teaching me something. It was more of being in unfamiliar settings with unfamiliar people. The tough lessons that I got was probably the beatings from the foster parents. You know, like I said, there was only one foster parent out of a slew of others where I wasn't abused. That's horrible. So, and I don't know if it had anything to do with her age or what, but Johnny Brown, she treated me like a person and not just some foster child, you know. So really I should be talking about her, my relationship with her, but since we're talking about mothers and how this is not the norm for everybody to have that type of relationship with their mom, then I want to talk about my mother, who is I'm named after her. Her name is Wanda Jean Foster, and I love Wanda Jean Foster. Did I get whoopings, or who whooped me? Shoot. Oh, when we were young, we used to get our butts towed up. Extension cords, switches, shoes, freaking broomsticks. You name it. We got everything. So as far as my memory goes, I lived with my grandma. So I'm not sure if it was my grandma or my aunt that was whooping us. We know it's not mama. But so yeah, we got whoopings with anything you can name. I don't think it taught me anything. I mean, I'm wondering if a lot of stuff I probably blocked out if my brain perceived it as being traumatic. And so I can only speak from what I can actually remember. So I did get whoopings. I got abused, so which is the reason why we went into foster care. And there, in that article I was reading about maternal abuse. So like a lot of times, and I'm not familiar with this, so it's kind of hard to speak on, but when you have mothers that they don't really show love like the typical way of showing love. They try to show tough love to teach you life lessons. Since I didn't have that type of typical family dynamic or mother-daughter dynamic, I wasn't taught those things that a lot of women were taught. And remember, when you're being taught about, say, little boys or little girls, it's always, make sure you stay away from those fast-ass girls or them little nappy-headed ass boys, cause or there's nothing open late at night but legs, you know. So I've heard those type of things. But as far as remembering, I probably heard those things on TV, like on black movies, not from like a parent saying that. But let me see. Did the way I was raised influence how I raised my children? I'm gonna say slightly. No, a lot. Because I didn't have that mother-daughter relationship. Of course, I didn't know how to be a mother. I had to figure it out. I had to try this and see if it works. So I don't think clearly there's a wrong if you're abusing your children or molesting or anything like that. But as far as there being a right or wrong way to raise your children, that's going to be relative. I say relative because people have to do what they need to do in their situation. What may work for your household may not be what works for my household. But for some reason, I'm sorry, y'all. For some reason, people think that they have all the answers, and whatever I've tried, you should try because it works, and that's not true. Or my mama was this way, so why wasn't your mama like this? If I had the answers to that, I'm sure I would be a rich woman, you know. But as far as receiving nourishment or love or intimacy or things like that, I didn't get that. But I said my kids did not ask to be here, and so I'm not going to deprive them of something that is so pivotal to their growth. As you don't even realize how not receiving those things can hinder you in your adult life. Because how can you love somebody else or be nurturing to somebody else if you never received that? So it's all of it's a trial and error. Like I remember raising my kids, they would want to hold my hand, and I was just like, oh my God, no, you know. But I forced myself to do it because, like I said, my kids did not ask to be here, and they deserve all the love that I can muster out of me. So again, having that nurturing, that someone telling you they love you, fostering and feeding your self-esteem and your self-worth, and treating you with respect so that you know how someone else is supposed to treat you is so important. It's so important. And you can pretty much tell the people who didn't receive that. You can tell because they're probably more angry. They're probably less likely to have lasting relationships. They're probably more standoffish, and they isolate themselves because it's easier to isolate yourself and deal with yourself because you're not necessarily going to disappoint yourself. Other people will disappoint you, and then rather than you deal with that disappointment, you tend to isolate yourself. It's harder to love, be loved, because you don't really know what that's supposed to feel like or what it is. And so just remember, anybody who is watching this, if you decide to have children and say you're mad at your baby daddy, your baby mama, whatever, and you're mistreating that child, you're not hugging that child because that child looks just like the dad or just like the mom, you are wrong. And that child will suffer from that for the rest of their life. The pivotal age where children need to feel that nurturing and that love and that intimacy, not in a crazy way, but where you hug your child and you rub their back and you teach them life lessons. It's between the ages of 2 and 4. It's a very important age. So if you miss that, you're damaging your child. You're really damaging your child. So yes, the way I was raised did influence the way I raised my children, especially my girls. I remember reading the Willie Lynch letter, and it was stating how the slaves were pitted against each other. Male against female, light skin against dark skin, old against young. And it makes perfect sense because, and then of course, when I say male against female, what they were doing was tying the limbs of the man to mules or to horses. They're doing this in front of the children and the woman. So they hit the horse and make the horses run in different directions, and they're tearing the limbs off of the male. If you do that type of thing, you're keeping the woman in line so that she becomes submissive to what the slave owners want her to do. And so if she's so used to being without that man because he's either being killed or he's being sold off or something is happening to him, we learn how to be more independent, because there is not a guarantee that our men will be there. So a lot of the times the way we respond to certain things, as far as saying I'm independent, there's a reason for it. That's just not something that we just throw up. Well, let me take that back. That's not something grown, mature women throw up. There's a reason why it's being stated. Now, I was teaching my girls to be self-sufficient, independent, so they don't have to depend on anybody for anything. Because I didn't want anyone to be able to throw anything in their face. Well, I did this for her, and she did da. Because sometimes people will take advantage of the fact that they have done something for you. And I didn't want my girls to depend, and sorry guys, no disrespect, to depend on no man for any reason. But it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes. Because sometimes, let me ask myself, do you think a woman can be too independent? And the reason why I ask that question, because I think for me, not having somebody to show me the way, to show me how to be a woman, to show me how to be a mother, to be a good person, those are things that I had to kind of figure out. Not necessarily trial and error, but I'm a nurturer by nature. That's what I do. It sometimes it doesn't, well, most of the time it doesn't make sense to me to purposely mistreat other people. And so, or do wrong by other people. So when it comes to being independent and teaching my girls that same thing, it's not that I was trying to teach them to emasculate a man, but I didn't want them to have to suffer what I went through as a young woman growing up with young children by myself. I had stair-step children, and the fathers weren't necessarily around, while they were growing up. I didn't want them to experience that same thing as I did. I wanted them to be able to, if they end up having children, be able to take care of those children and not depend on anybody. So like I said, it's not necessarily that women are trying to use it as a weapon, but historically, women were taught to kind of, when even Indian tribe, native tribes, the men would go off to do their rites of passage and all of that. That woman stayed home, and she was the protector. She was the provider. She did all of these things. So this is nothing new. So the fact when, I'm going to say black women, obviously for many reasons, when black women say independent, because we've had to be, all different races have had to be independent, have had to do for themselves, you want a woman that's going to be able to step up and do what she needs to do, even if you're not there. If you don't have a woman with that foundation, what is the point of being with her if she can't add to you? And you can't add to each other. It's not about somebody making you happy. We should be able to add to each other's happiness. So if it's called independence, if both of us are independent, we can only be better, greater together. So yes, how I was raised did influence how I raised my children. And I have to say this for my son as well. It's kind of hard when you go and read, look at a lot of things that we've been afforded to be able to obtain knowledge from, the history books, in regards to like my son. I was in a lot of several domestic violence situations, right? And so all I knew from those situations is that I didn't want my son to grow up and be a woman beater. And so I would tell him, don't you put your hands on a woman. Don't you ever, I don't care what she does, you don't put your hands on a woman. But then sometimes his sisters would, kind of take advantage of the fact that I was teaching my son this. And they would kind of, take it for granted that he was unable to hit them back. And so I didn't want my son to be like that. And also the way we see our young black men dying out here in the streets, I didn't want, it was almost like a double-edged sword of having my son. I want you to stand up for yourself, but I want you to keep your head down at the same time so that I can see you another day. I can see you live to see another day. it seemed like we didn't have those issues when I was growing up. Even with all of the abuse and things like that, not having my mother, we didn't see that type of thing. But now, that's all you see. You really have to disconnect yourself from what is going on in society today, because it's crazy. But anyway, so back to the life lessons of what was being taught, as far as, stay away from them little nappy head little boys or them fast ass little girls. Mamas or guardians or whatever, aunties, whatever. Why did they assume that other little girls were fast ass? Like, I wasn't fast, but I guess with any household, if you push that narrative that other little girls are fast ass, because how can you really tell other than knowing that they're having sex? If you don't know that for a fact, how do you know that they're fast? So there was two things from that article I was reading where she said she learned that women are not to be trusted. And so I added my own little part, so don't have them around your man. I think everybody knows you don't want to have a woman around your man like that. So that narrative was pushed early on. It is not mine. I don't own it. But I can see why that was stated. I can understand that. And then the other lesson was don't keep many females around you. So you're already learning a distrust for women, not to really, I don't want to say have loyalty in your female relationships, but you're pretty much giving them the side eye, no matter how close you think you are. I think maybe it's an unconscious side eye, like, everything she said, she says, oh, your man got on some cute shoes. So that is generational. That is from back in the day, and it keeps going. It just seems like it keeps getting worse now, though. Now it seems like, man, I can honestly say I haven't seen a lot of healthy female relationships. I always see a lot of drama, especially on Facebook. I always see a lot of drama, a lot of backbiting, backstabbing, and so with me not learning the nurturing and the trust and the respect and all of that, how was I supposed to take that and apply what I didn't learn to my adult life other than to teach myself? So it's so crazy, because with my relationships and my kids, their relationships with other people, they're pretty much just like me. So I have influenced them quite a bit in who I choose to deal with. Like, I am very low tolerance. They are very low tolerance. I will cut you off, very dismissive. They are the same way. And I hate that. But it seems like the only way sometimes that you can protect yourself from bitch assness. I hate to say that, but yeah. So I'm trying to get better at, I guess, attaining friends or keeping friends or wanting to tolerate friends. I'm trying to get better because I want my kids to be better at that. I want them to have friends and long-lasting relationships. I always want to grow up in the same school, go to the same school for multiple years so you can grow up with people. I never got that chance because I was moved around from foster home to foster home. So people going in and out of my life was the norm. So as an adult, it's still the norm, and it kind of doesn't bother me because this is what I'm used to. So yes, again, I'm influencing my children. It did come from the lack of being taught how to trust or what to look for in quality friends. And it seems so messed up to say quality friends, but when in terms of your heart, your feelings, your mindset, your sanity, I think it's a good idea to really damn near do a credit check, a damn background check on friends. You want to know that people have your best interest. And so that was the reason why I was kind of I still try to tell my kids, you know, go out there, meet people, make friends, you know, live your life, live your best life. But if they're not seeing me with too many friends, so naturally I was the one constant parent in their life. So they're gonna pretty much emulate or imitate exactly what I'm doing. So hopefully, of course, they've taken some bad character traits like being dismissive of people. Okay, yeah, baby, you know, that's something. Do I want to change that? Probably not. I'm 40 years old, almost 41, January 1st. I'm pretty much stuck in that way. I just want to have the best mental health that I can, and people surrounding me that have my best interest. Okay. Did you see your parent or parental figure have positive female friends? Well, since my mother wasn't there, I'll just say with one of the foster homes, and I'm gonna say it collectively, I don't remember them having female friends like that. Like the way that young girls or young ladies have friends now surrounding them, the groupie friends or whatever. I didn't see that. So if you don't see that growing up, you don't know what it looks like. So now when you fast forward to the present time, it's like, is this supposed to happen? Am I supposed to be that forgiving? Am I supposed to be that tolerating? Am I supposed to be, is this something that normally happens where, you know, friends, girlfriends are calling each other, bitch, da, 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 da. That didn't seem normal to me. So like, when my friend Big B, bitch this and bitch that, and I'm just like, honey, no. But she's done said it so much to where I'm saying it. And I still really don't like it. It just seems there's such a negative connotation associated with being called a bitch or a hoe. But it's the norm for the millennials. That's the norm. Like, and it's almost like, I know disrespect is not being taught. And then I can't even say that. Because to me it's mad disrespectful. And it's just different words that are used when you say bitch or your hoe or nigga or whatever. It has such a negative connotation to it that I think I can't even get past to just use it as a term of endearment. Which that's how we use it, as a term of endearment. Like I would call my husband nigga, you know. But I don't remember seeing any adults with like a lot of friends around them. So that was kind of the thing. So that's how I am. I don't have a lot of friends around me. My kids don't have a lot of friends around them. I'm pretty sure my children's children won't have a lot of people around them like that. I don't even know how to feel about that, because I want them. I don't feel like you have to have friends, a lot of friends necessarily, but I do think you need to have social interactions with people in order to kind of add to living your best life. Like, I mean, you can have all the money in the world, all of the success in the world, but if you have it by yourself and no one to share it with, it doesn't seem as great. I'm pretty sure a lot of these celebrities can tell you that we think that their life is like, oh my God, I want to be this person, and it's not that. They go through just as many problems or more than us with that's broke, busted go through. So, past black mothers, like in the past, and this is funny because I was reading that on the article as well. They say in the past, black mothers didn't tell their business. Like you never knew what was going on in their household. But today, honey, that is like obviously the thing to do, is to tell your business to your girlfriends. Because I think back then, and I have to say it, I feel like women were built differently. They took a licking and kept on ticking just to have something that rhymes. But I hate to say it, it seemed like they were stronger in a sense. Stronger because they were living these tumultuous lives, being oppressed and being beaten and being raped, and having their husbands and sons and brothers and uncles and daddies killed. And so they have to be strong. They have to build thick skin. So it's not something that, I mean, obviously they probably talked about it, but not to the extent on some messy stuff like now. Now everybody's talking everybody's business, and people, I think, why do I think that? Let me see. I think people are looking not just for validation, but looking for someone with a similar situation, someone that can identify with them, they can identify with them. It makes you feel a little better if you have somebody to talk to. But back in the day, yeah, they weren't talking business like that. I don't know what the change is, but at some point, there's a breakdown of how women and mothers connected. Now you even have mothers calling, disrespecting their daughters and wishing death upon them and plague, like some whole Romeo and Juliet, a plague on all your houses. That is the type of crap that's going on right now. And it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Now, I've even witnessed seeing, you always see it on the talk shows. You see it on, on Facebook. You see it everywhere you go. So it's like, at what point can we fix the damage that has been done? Like, I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to just go out on a limb, I'm pretty sure that mothers back in those times weren't teaching their children to be disrespectful like that, or be fast, or they were teaching them life lessons as far as how to survive out here. I don't think teaching our young girls how to survive is something that's happening. It's unfortunate, because now we have a lot of lost adults. We got a lot of lost daughters out here, don't know their tail from their mouth. Oh Lord, it's pretty bad. Now we got to get on the good foot. We got to do better. We got to straighten up and fly right, like they used to say back in the day. Because how are we to find a quality man if we all ate up? We don't have our stuff together. We're looking for somebody to take care of us. And it's like again, one of those things where I think you should be independent, but at the same time, you should be open to building with somebody, something lasting, some quality relationship. And I struggle with that every day, because I grew up kind of by myself. It was people around, but I grew up by myself, having to teach myself life lessons that not only they should have taught in school, but one of them foster parents should have taught me something. Now, the foster mom that was the best foster mom I've ever had, she was older when I lived with her. But let me see. As far as my recollection, I can't remember, other than her taking care of me, I can't remember anything specific that stood out other than I can't really remember much of anything. And I'm not sure why, but like I said, in previous, the week before or last week, I had spoke about my depression, and sometimes it conflicts with my reality, and if it perceives something as being traumatic, it'll block it out. So that's probably why I can't remember a lot of things associated with my foster mom, other than you may not remember what people said or a life lesson or something that they taught you, but you'll remember how they made you feel. So how she made me feel definitely stands out to me. Now I'm just going to do some miscellaneous talking right now in regards to the same topic, and that's is there a disconnect between mothers and daughters? I do believe there's a disconnect. We have to start teaching our young daughters about being ladies. I'm sticking with being independent because I think it's important. Me and my girls talked about having a safety plan. A safety plan is not just if you're being abused or if you're going through cheating or anything. A safety plan is also a state of mind. It's also it's so many facets to it that each individual person has to kind of decide what should go into their safety plan in order to protect themselves. And this is not just a woman thing or just a man thing. I think everybody needs to do this, because there's a breakdown not only with mothers and daughters, but with men and women of all nationalities. But mainly, I can only speak on the black community. There's a breakdown amongst us. And if we don't get it together, we will continue to die out here. We don't have each other's back, and we need to do better about that. We are the only people that, I'm saying, within the community that can understand the other's plight. But yet we are the main ones who, I don't know if we're refusing to understand or what is going on, but we need to get it together. So back to the breakdown of the mothers and daughters. If I can go by what I see day to day on social media, on these TV shows, if how we are or how we should be is supposed to be depicted in these television shows, like these reality shows, and Maury and what's the other one, Jerry Springer, where you have people becoming famous off of disrespecting their mothers. Like, where they do that at? Like, what? When has that ever been a thing? Now it's a thing to disrespect your mama. Like, she need her ass whooping for real. And they're glorifying it. If you keep painting a certain picture that this is okay, then children will continue to treat their parents like this. They will continue to treat their parents like this because they're going to capitalize off of it. We're watching this. We're giving credit to it. We are supporting this monstrosity of behavior that we're seeing. What's that little girl? Catch Me Outside girl. We done helped this little girl blow up behind being disrespectful to her mother. That's disturbing. Now, there are some other life lessons as far as, not life lessons, but influences that my upbringing, how it affected me raising my children. And it's not just my upbringing. So since I never had like the typical mother-father household, then I pretty much, even though I would have boyfriends or whatever, even had a ex-husband, and I'm married now, I still did it. I still am a work in progress on how that whole thing works. It's mainly because I don't see it. I don't see a lot of, and this is hint. We need to see more successful, realistic, emphasis on realistic depictions of black families. What is that? Everybody hates Chris. Everybody hates Chris. You have that one. You have. But are those accurate depictions of the black family or mother-daughter relationships? Because now, since it's such the norm for young black girls to disrespect their mothers, you're even seeing it on TV. You know, you're seeing it on TV, and this is what they're showing all the time, constantly, because now that's the norm. The Cosby Show is why I keep going back to the Cosby Show or even Fresh Prince, because it seemed like a better depiction, but at the same time, a lot of black families don't have successful parents. And, you know, of course, success is relative. So there's so much that we need to learn. I remember one day having this whole dialogue with one of my ex-hosts from one of the other shows we're doing. And the question was, how do the schools teach young children life lessons, like things that they can utilize in life? That is an unequivocal no. It doesn't. Now, teaching children how to do take care of their credit, teaching children how to be good, like parenting classes, and you even hesitate to do that. how to balance checkbooks and how to maintain a household. And it's not just a woman's responsibility to be domestic. I think that's everybody responsibility. Now I know back in the day that was the thing for the woman to do the domestic responsibilities and the man to be the protector and the provider, but things have kind of changed. In your situation, you're going to have to do what's best for you and your household, not what's best for you and everybody else's household, because what they're going through or what they have going on is not what you have going on. So you have to do the best thing for your situation. So if it takes both of y'all to wash the dishes, both of y'all wash the dishes. Don't expect me, because I'm a woman, to wash the dishes. I'm going to need both of us to do that. If we see the trash needs taken out, let's take it out. So these are things that I was teaching my girls and my son. Like, we all need to do this together because we all live here. So just at any given time, I'm pretty sure that the way I was to my kids, some of that's gonna rub off on how they do their children. I'm hoping, because I used to whoop the crap out of my kids, but then I stopped because I was like, man, I feel like because I was abused, I could really get carried away, so I'm not gonna whoop them. And I started doing more, like when I went to the military, I would have them do military exercise, like front leaning rest position. For those of you who don't know, that's the push-up position. The push-up extension. So I'm hoping that whoopings pass on. Thesia. Zarian. But yes. So to sum it all up, the reason why I did this specific post is because I did see an article that went through my timeline, and I'm paraphrasing, the disconnect between mothers and daughters in the black community. And I felt like that was such a great question or article that I had to speak on it. And because I didn't have the traditional mother-daughter relationship, even in the foster homes, I still didn't have that traditional relationship. So there's a lot of things that I probably should have learned, not only before I got in foster care, but after I got in foster care. I had to kind of wing it. And a lot of mothers probably have to wing it just like I had to wing it. And so you can only do the best that you can as long as you're not being abusive, especially as far as discipline goes. Because at this point, society, and I hate to say it, but societies or people in positions of authority are taking discipline out of the homes. But then when the child gets in trouble, why didn't you discipline your child? I wonder why. Probably because you've let my child know that they can call the police on me and I can go to jail. Or probably because of that $500 fine that you try to give me. Probably because you're trying to convict me as a felon if I discipline my child. So you can't have it both ways. I'm going to need you to make up your mind. So, but like I said, back in the day, hunty, we were getting a black beat off of us. It was not a game. You can't do that stuff now. You can't get them the ass whooping that they really need, you know. So my baby is on here watching. So hopefully she has learned something from this and just kind of being able to ascertain the difference between, you know, how I was raised up not having my mother there, or even when I had foster mothers, it's still, they weren't Claire Huxtable. They weren't Aunt Viv. And so do I feel like I've missed out on something? There's a Facebook friend that I have, Shivaye. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's always taking pictures with her mom, and sometimes I get so, not envious, but like, oh, that must be nice. Or like Victoria, she has a pretty good relationship with her mom, and that's why this is going to be probably a 3-part, because we're going to have her mom on here to talk about it, and Vic and Alyssa to talk about their relationships with their mother, so you can get a broader spectrum. Not everybody doesn't have their mom, but even if their mom, say they're in a household with their mom, it's still not an ideal situation. So for you people who go and post on Facebook, if you love your mom, type amen. And you know we be wanting to say something, but we don't, so we don't look petty. Or just realize, and acknowledge that not everybody has your great situation, that great relationship with their parent. Now, I want to always be able to have a great relationship with my daughters because I did not have that relationship with my mother. It's unfortunate. I would love to sit here and say, oh, I love my mother. I know I'm supposed to love my mother. The Bible says that you're supposed to love your mother, but that's not the case. It's just not the situation that I had. And every day or most days what goes through my head is my mother, who is supposed to, be my mother, is wishing death upon me. So it's like sometimes I'm thinking like, dang, if it was hard for my mother to love me, how the hell is anybody else supposed to love me? So I had to find ways to kind of get around that. Although I struggle with it because I look like her. So it's like whatever you have to do, and let's talk about overcoming it. Whatever you have to do to overcome such a disappointment like that. Like when my mother was in prison all those years, I would fantasize about how she would be once she was released. What I was seeing was the Claire Huxtables and the Aunt Viv. This was my expectation. This was whatever foundation, like in school they would have the books, and it'll have like elementary school. Jane took her daughter, whatever. I'm thinking that's how it's supposed to be, where you go get your nails done with your mom. She combs your hair. You help her cook. I know, right, Decia? She helps you learn how to cook. Those type of things. That's what I was looking forward to. But when she got out, it was very exciting when she first got out, because it's like, this is the person that I look like, and oh my God, I have my mother after all that. I think she went in jail when I was probably around, maybe, I'm going to say between 3 and 5. Not really sure. Because I don't remember not one time where I was with her, ever. But my brother, he remembers. But even before she went to jail, I was always with somebody else. So it's so many times where I'm thinking, dang, even when she had an opportunity to have me, she still didn't. So that kind of does something to your psyche, where this is supposed to be the relationship you have with your parent, your mother. Because my father, I don't know who he is or where he is. Typical, I know, but it is what it is. But my mother, I expected this. And what I got was horrific. She would tell me that I had an ulterior motive for dealing with her. And I'm like, what ulterior motive could I possibly have other than wanting the mother that I never had here with me? I mean, Mama, I can't fuck you. I can't have sex with you. I mean, so what ulterior motive could I have? Like, even now, she's back in prison, and she's still sending, I wish death upon you, to my brother, and he tells me. So I'm wondering about her mentality. I know that she suffers from schizophrenia, but for me, your brain understands what having a mental illness is. You understand it? But your heart and your ideals don't. So I don't ever want my children to grow up thinking, hearing that I don't love them and I hate them and I'm wishing death upon them. That is so crazy to me. And so I try not to let it bother me, but for some reason, I've pretty much built up a disconnect for her. I feel like any dealings with her is volatile for me, toxic for me. So I choose not to deal with her. And I know that if I'm not doing something for her monetary wise, then she has no use for me. She feels like, let me drink this one, y'all. She feels like her children have an obligation to do for her monetarily. How? Because it may be disrespectful to some people. For people who understand and who don't have that great a relationship with their parents, they'll know what I'm saying. As far as I'm concerned, that was an incubator. I'm not sure what the Lord's plan is or was for that situation, but I can't consider her a mother. You know how they say there's a difference between being a daddy and being a father? There's also a difference between being a mother and what word can we put in having a baby, being an incubator. There's a difference. She has no mothering instinct, no nurturing instinct, no I love you. If it's a I love you, is I love you, give me some money. So, I mean, it kind of messes with you because you don't know how to deal with that. And again, you're not seeing healthy mother-daughter relationships a lot of the times. Why did it take almost 40 years for me to even see a healthy mother-daughter relationship? And in that, I see one on Facebook and my friend Victoria. That's horrible. And I'm wondering how many other women have experienced that or went through that. I'm wondering. That's crazy. So again, we have to do better about making sure, trying to foster and facilitate a better relationship with our daughters. Letting them know that, yeah, it's going to get hard. It's going to, most of the time, it'll be harder before it gets easier. But you want them to know how to handle it. You want them to know how to cope with it. I was never taught that. And so I'm going out on a limb. And, I mean, you can read about it all day. But when you read it in textbooks, that's just a general synopsis of maybe a blueprint of how you should be. But it's going to be different when you're in that actual situation. So, I said, do what you need to do to take care of yourself as a young woman who wasn't taught, as a young woman who doesn't know, and you're just trying to survive out here. Don't think anything negative about yourself because you don't have a great relationship with your mother. Now, this is my daughter. This is my oldest daughter. So I want her, because obviously she wants to be on camera. I want her, any influence or anything that, any lessons that, stop doing that. Any lessons that you learned growing up from me, especially you saw the video, well, some of the video. What lessons did you learn and how has it influenced you raising your baby girl?
To always tell my children I love them, because it goes a very long way. Even though they're too young to understand it, but it's just like, I want, when they're older and they do understand, to whenever they can think about them being younger, just remember that their mom loved them. Like, regardless of whatever happened to me, like if I was to die while they're young, when they're older, it's like, dang, I remember my mom. Like, I want them to be able to have that imprint of me in their heart so deep that when they look back, they know that their mom loved them. Like, I don't want them to ever have to question, like you did us. Like, you fuss at us all the time. Like, you always cussing us out, but it's like we know you love us.
You know, they kind of call that maternal abuse when the parents cuss out the kid. But look, listen.
I get
now
it.
listen. It seems like when you speak nicely to your children, like, okay, I want you to go in the room, I want you to make sure you clean it up, blah, blah, blah. Them jokers act like they cannot understand English. So when you start the cussing, then they get right to it. That makes no sense. Do what I said the first time when I'm being all nice versus waiting till I cuss you out. So you see the first thing she latched on, she would cuss us out, but we knew she loved us. But what about if I was, say, prostituting you out and beating the hell out of you, like really abusing you, but I'm still saying I love you. I do this because I love you. What do you think about parents that do that?
I mean, to the child, it may seem like, I don't know. You have to be in that situation, because
I think so.
Me, from being outside looking in, I can't tell, like, dang, I know she don't really love her, but from them, that's all they know. So she might really actually feel like that they love, or that she's loved by her mom, even though she's doing that. You have to actually be in that situation.
Do you think a mother can love the child that she's abusing, or? Because sometimes, like, I don't know, it seems weird to even call your children, say, like, little bitches or hoes or tramps or whatever. But, like, we'll do it jokingly, but it just seems so wrong. But we only do it jokingly, you know what I'm saying? But even when they make me mad and I don't like them right now and I want them to leave and get out of my face, I can't even imagine doing my children, my girls, even my son, how I was done and how I continue to be done by my mother. I can't even, like, mothers who kill their children, or it seems inconceivable to me to not have a good relationship with my girls. I love my girls. Like, I can't even imagine not being with them. As many times as I've struggled throughout life, I even struggle now with the depression. I turn to my kids. They grew up with me. I was 19 when I had my first one. And I was 19 when I had my first one. And so I was young. So we grew up together. I'm about to be 41. She's already 21. She's about to be 22.
You better act like you know.
She's about to be 22. And it's like, I've always, because I didn't have friends, I've always confided in my kids. Some people will feel like that's kind of, oh, you're not your kid's friend. Listen, do what you need to do in your relationship, in your situation. Don't tell other people how to survive in theirs. And that's just what it is. If we're going to, because I notice a lot of times when you do videos like this, unless you're cussing and doing all of this, people won't pay attention. They don't try to, when you have quality videos and you're actually talking about something, those are the ones that they don't pay attention to. But I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna get semi-gutter, right? Do whatever the hell you need to do for your situation. You take what you can from somebody's opinion or suggestion. The rest, leave it, because at the end of the day, no one knows your situation like you. So I'm hoping that my girls have learned life lessons from me. That way, they can go and not make as many mistakes as I've made. I want them to learn from my mistakes as in regards to dating, in regards to education, in their career, and having a good relationship with their children. I want them to have that. Right now, do you think, what type of relationship do you think you have with your daughter? Or you think it's too early to tell because she's so young?
She loves me.
She don't know better.
Even if she did know better, she loves me.
So do you think, was there anything specific that stood out to you while you were growing up with me as your parent?
What you mean?
Like, as far as discipline go, as far as being, when you think of being independent, do you feel like you would use that as a weapon just to kind of throw in somebody who says, well, I'm independent, so I don't need you type? Or do you think there's a reason why you're saying this? Is it because it's the way you were taught to be? Or
I think it's because the way I was taught to be. Because I don't feel like being independent is necessarily a good thing all the time, especially with men.
It depends. It depends on the intent of the person saying it or using it. Because some women can be like, I'm independent, I don't need you for nothing.
Right, but then at the same time, when you're older and you're like, relationship-wise, no man wants a woman that's independent. Like, or else they don't feel like they're valued. Because if a man is with, if you're with a man and you're, I'm independent, I don't need you to do this, I don't need you to do that, I don't need you to do that, then they're going to go somewhere where they feel like they're needed.
But listen,
that they can help and that they can do that.
It's only because there has been a negative stigma, a negative connotation associated with the woman considering herself as being independent. It is not something that's negative. But again, yeah, you do have.
I be telling them I'm independent.
You do have females who misuse the word. They don't understand the context to which it should be used. It's not supposed to be used as a weapon. You have, say, like Victoria and Alyssa. They fix cars. They fix things in the house. They do a lot of things that is supposed to be something that the man is dedicated or specific to a man. They consider themselves as being independent. Some men will find that intimidating because they don't feel. Yes, I've been drinking. Some men will find that intimidating because that's not the norm. So I'm trying to see, as far as you guys being young, you see it as being something negative. You don't see anything positive about it?
I don't see nothing, because that's what I'm quick to say, that I'm independent. Because everything that I've got is either, like, I've got it for myself. My mom has taught me how to do it that way. I don't need a man to get a car. I don't need a man to pay a bill. I've always done all this stuff myself. And when I started giving that role to a man is when I started downgrading, is when I started becoming lesser than where I'd be at. If I would have stick to myself, I would have stayed actually independent and not dependent on no one else, then I feel like in a better situation than I am now. But since I decided to like try, that's what made me. I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with being independent as long as you know how to use it. Like, as long as you know when to and when not to be or act that way or to give that off.
Is it because I feel slightly guilty about teaching you guys to be?
I feel like had you not taught us to be independent, I would be here. Like, I would have never let us.
Yeah, because when I was trying to teach you guys to be independent and self-sufficient, it wasn't to be a sneak diss to a man or slight a man or anything like that. It's because of how I was raised. I was by myself. I had to, when I started having kids, and even before, I had to do things by myself. I had to obtain these things, education, career, by myself. So even though I would have guys or have boyfriends or whatever, they didn't do their part as the man. So if you fall short, I should be able to pick up the pieces. A lot of guys get very, I'm going to say, insecure or intimidated by a woman who knows how to carry herself or knows how to do what she needs to do. 9 times out of 10, if there are children that are had, that woman takes on the full responsibility for the child. 9 times out of 10. So if that's the case, that woman should be able to stand on her own 2 feet. That's why I can't conceive of people assuming that saying I'm independent is a negative thing. Why it has a negative connotation. So, but I kind of straddle the fence because I don't want you like totally dismiss a man and using it as a weapon. I want you to know why I taught you that. I wanted to make sure. Hope says men find it intimidating because they can't do what you can do. And I think they get it twisted. I think when they think about, because I always hear guys say, okay, what makes a woman strong? And I'm like, to me, I get offended by that because I'm just like, why do I have to try to validate my strength? Why do I need to try to convince you that I'm strong? If like I said, from back in the day, even with Native Americans, those men, they always went to do a rite of passage. They took their sons to do rite of passage. And so that woman had to be the provider, the protector, she had to do everything, the nurse, the counselor, everything. So this is not something that's new where women are being independent or women are teaching their daughters to be independent. This stuff has been going on. So for a guy to be intimidated, insecure, feel like you're emasculating them is freaking asinine to me. So I'm glad that you took some lessons from what I've been trying to teach you guys. You think your sister, how do you think how I raised you guys influenced her?
I can't speak on her. Didi does her own thing. I know that every time I do something, every time I think of something, any move I make, I just think about stuff that you taught us. Literally, my whole life is based off of everything that you taught us. Because, that's why I come to you a lot with questions about stuff that I don't know. Because you taught us so much. So when it's something I get to and I don't know it, it's like, dang, Mama ain't teaching that to me. I don't know how to go about this.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have that type of influence, or even to see, even now being 40, almost 41, to see healthy mother-daughter relationships or healthy female-to-female relationships. Which, and I always like to say this during the shows, which is one of the reasons why I created DW 2.0, The Rise of a Broken Woman, is because I'm seeing it too much for women. Get out of where women are not supporting each other. Women are not celebrating one another. Women are not, they're quick to criticize and judge another woman when you, before anybody else should be able to understand her plight. We need more positivity being depicted on these television shows. Even the cartoons are bad. Even the commercials, it's like real bad out here. But I understand from a business side, people are trying to make money. But don't let it be at the expense of family households and family dynamics. Stop pushing those negative narratives. It's my grandbaby, y'all. My granddaughter. This generation's over here. Stop pushing those negative narratives on these families, especially people of color. We got to stop promoting and supporting these negative stereotypes of who we are in our family dynamic. Yes, some of them may be true, but it is time for us to change that. It is time for us to be present in our household. We're working so much. We're working just to pay bills and not even living, so that we're not spending the time that we should spend, the time that we should spend raising our daughters. And they're going out here and they're getting pregnant young, and they're going through all of these domestic violence situations and all of these bad things that happen to them. And I think a lot of it has to do with they're not being taught, or they don't have positive role models to look up to. Now, I don't ever try to be anybody's role model. I'm just trying to live, just trying to survive, just trying to live my best life, the best I can. I do appreciate you guys tuning in with me. Like I said, there will be a part 2 and 3, so that we can bring a mother from back in the day, could tell you how it was, how it is. I always kind of like to hear the differences in how mothers facilitated relationships with their daughters from back in the day compared to now. But now it doesn't seem like there's much of any type of relationship going on within the household between mothers and daughters, which we need to change that. So I'm going to continue to foster a positive relationship with my daughters and my son, but since we're talking about mother-daughter, and I'm hoping that everyone else will do the same, so that we can start bringing some healing to our young girls who are becoming broken young women, broken older women, broken elderly women. Something has to change before it's too late. Now, I already feel like we're pretty far gone, but something has to change, and why not start now in your household? Don't worry about what's going on in other people's household, but you can only do what you can do in your household. So, thank you for tuning in with me, LaWanda, with DW 2.0, The Rise of a Broken Woman. Talk to you soon. Holla.